We could not find your stream. Oh, that's fucking fantastic. Where am I streaming to? What the fuck? Am I streaming to my stream? Or am I streaming to something? No, I'm streaming to my stream. Okay. Welcome, everybody. OBS is being, well, OBS is being OBS. Let's be honest here. This might be a little bit of a shorter one today, because I am only half awake and running on literal fumes of caffeine and spite at this point. So what I'm thinking is we'll probably set the camera speed to being slightly higher. That's a bit better. We'll probably finish up, or like actually make where are they? There. These little like fire hazards that we're gonna need to have. And then we'll probably get sorry. We'll probably like at least make this hallway or something like that. We might look at this. I don't know what exactly we're going to be doing, but nothing that's too intensive, most likely. So let's get started with that fire hazard. I think we made the hazard blueprint last time. There we go. I've also kind of been running into an issue where the level streaming might not have been the best idea ever. Because whenever I enter this level streaming volume, I don't even know what this level streaming volume is, honestly. Like, where does that even lead? Oh yeah, maybe, yeah, probably want that to be a little bit higher. Whenever I enter this, there's a little bit of a lag spike because it's then loading in that level. And I'm sure that that's not supposed to be happening. So I did do a cook content, because that's what the internet told me to do. Maybe it's fixed now, and if it's not, we might need to go back to doing like the trigger volume based thing instead of doing level streaming. But again, I'm pretty sure that level streaming, like, it's not supposed to be blocking. It's supposed to be async, right? I think. So that'll be something that we look at in a moment. Anyway, we have this activate hazard and deactivate hazard. We're going to be changing this to be a little bit more procedural. So what we're going to do is I'm going to what am I going to do? It's a fantastic question. I think we're going to make a array Niagara Flames. This might be pretty computationally expensive, but we'll see whether or not this has any like performance impact. So what I'm thinking is we do a Niagara component array. If we can do that to begin with, say, should be able to, right? Niagara particle system component, there we go. Make them an array. And then we'll procedurally add these Niagara systems instead. So this activate and deactivate hazard. We'll look into it in a moment. We'll do it with a for each loop, and then each one of these will get activated. And once they're all activated, we do the delay and generate overlap event. And then we take the Niagara Flames as well, and we deactivate them all like this. Then what we want to do is we want to set up a construction script to run this with. So what I'm thinking is we have a compile error. That's what I'm thinking. That makes a lot of sense. We need to hook that up. So what I'm thinking is we set up a variable for the particle size or something like that, which will be just a normal float. We can make it X or Y size. We're just going to go with the idea that they're all going to be square, because frankly that's just easier for me to make at the moment. Let's say that they're by default going to be like 200 units, something like that. And then we'll add in a vector Actually, I was going to say we can add in a vector 2D. But we can just use the box extent for that. Might as well make that just a normal vector variable. That's just easier to manipulate, I think. So first and foremost, that's not how that works. Set box extend is going to be our size, which will also update overlaps. That's fine. We don't really care about that. And let's set this to like 250 by 250 by 100. I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling numbers out of my ass, to be honest with you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check how many of... that's actually a good question, how are we going to do that? Okay. I was thinking we're going to check how many of these particle sizes fit within the X and the Y here. So what we get is of course, we break this vector, then we get the X and the Y. The Z doesn't really matter. And then we divide that by the particle size, right? Both of those. But we also want to know what the... Can we just divide? I guess we can then divide and truncate. So we don't have any decimals. So we know without any remainders. And then we can also do a... What is it called again? A modulo. Which will give us just the remainders. Just for spacing reasons, we'll just put that to the side. We're not going to be using it for a while. We're building fires to go in the level real quick. We ended last time with that, and today my brain is only half awake, so it's going to be a fun little programming exercise to do. And then we'll put those in, and then we're going to be doing some more level blockouts, I think. And I need to make sure to drink enough water, because wait, why are those not connected up? Didn't I connect those up? Again, my brain's only half awake, so... don't mind me being an idiot. Anyway, what we'll do is we will for loop. Twice, actually. We're going to loop in a loop. And first index is going to be 1 in both of them. And then we're going to loop over the X first and then the Y. And then what we'll do is we will create Niagara, add Niagara particle system component. There we go. And then we will add that to our Niagara flames. Like this. At the very start, just to be sure, I think we want to clear this. Because otherwise it's going to be full of a bunch of empty references. We don't want to have that. And then we set this relative transform to the X index multiplied by the particle size. Relative transform is also going to split up into the X, and then this into the Y. Again, just multiply that. And that's the basic ID, but now they won't have any spacing, and it's going to be a little bit annoying to deal with, so we can look at this. We can give these a like little like set system. What is the function to change the system in a... It's a fantastic question. Agro system asset. Oh, we can just do the default like this. We'll take a look at the proper way to do this in a moment, but for now, I think we have been using like lightning, or I think I might have called it bolt. Yeah, so that does not seem to be doing what it'd be doing. That's because the particle size is still at 0 now. That's at 200, so that should by all accounts just be working now, shouldn't it? It is not. But if I change this, no, it's not working. Why is it not working? Let's put it in the world. I think there is a way to see procedurally added components. Hold on. Unreal, see blueprint added components. I want to be able to see them. There's a way to do this. I just forgot what I need to do. View procedurally generated components. Nope, that's not a good search query either. You know what? We're just going to ask ChatGPT because it can provide more context there. In Unreal, I am adding components through a blueprint script. How can I see those added components in my details view? Yeah, I know. Refresh the editor view. Is that how we do it? Like, do I just like need to refresh? Okay, so this is entirely bullshit. I guess we can actually see here Niagara Flames only has one thing added to it, so it does not quite work this way. I wonder why though, because X and Y. Oh, I guess we do need to start these at 0 actually, now I think about it. Yeah, so now it actually does them properly. Okay, so now it adds one every 100 units that I have in the size here. So if I set this to 300 by 300, we're going to have more of them in theory. Maybe it needs to be over 100. So if we do 301 by 301, so it only has the 4 of them. Why would that be? Oh, okay. Hold on, it works in one direction, seemingly. Oh, yeah, that's a fantastic point. He probably, I guess we just kind of want to offset the box by half its size in the X and Y directions as well. We can just do that right here. Set local offset. Add local offset. I don't know if that will. We'll look at that. I'm working on my own project, so I'm not really paying attention. What's not working? Assume trying to make a collision box match with particle systems for predictable hurt box, kinda. But yeah, so I want these these particle systems to kind of like scale up with the size box that I have. So that I can just make them bigger and smaller, and it'll dynamically adjust how many particles it spawns in. Anyway, so delta location, like let's make vector. So it'll just be the size divided by 2 actually. Oh well, only for the x and the y, now that I think about it. So the z will always be... Actually, the z will always be 0. They don't need to have that, so this still can be... Again, my brain's not entirely working today, so do forgive me for all that. Let's divide this by 2, then break it, and then hook up x to x and y to y. That should offset this so that it gets aligned with the corner. Not really. Yeah, that ain't doing, no, that ain't, no. Can I just set the origin, like the pivot point, to something else in here? That would be a lot fucking easier to do it that way, but I don't think you can do that. Also, hello, Turbo Morse. Okay, so let's set this by, like, to something stupidly big. 5,000 by 5,000. If I don't have this connected, does it do anything else, like, at all? Oh yeah, definitely. So, do I just need to do this? Well, we do need to connect this back up. That's my bad. Okay, so it seems like it's now always aligned to the corner here, so that's quite nice. I don't know why it's not spawning in enough. It's only spawning in half of them. What would that be? I guess the box extend. Can we just set box size directly? Yeah, so I'm guessing what box extend does is it is the extend in both directions here. So that would mean we just divide this by 2. Or multiply it by 2, actually. Right? Maybe? We'll see. Yeah, we multiply these by 2. Yeah, that's doing the trick. It's also frying my GPU every time it plays all of them, but it works now, so that's good. Let's set this back to a more reasonable size, like 250 by 250. Okay, there we go. But now the issue, and this is a minor issue, is first and foremost, it spawns them in a weird direction, but that might just be like the particle system that is doing this weirdly. Oh, we do actually want this to also... Yeah, I think we also just want to do this. Yeah, so now it's properly aligned. It spawns them in at 0, at 100, and at 200. But then since we don't make it all the way to 300, it just has some empty stuff here, but it still has the herd box there. So what I want to do is I want to take this little bit of empty space and add it in between these. So space them out a little bit more, so that it always has particles at the very edges, because this is very bad communication. So that shouldn't be that difficult, because we have the hold on. We have the modulo for both of those, right? So what we can just do is we can divide that modulo by the amount that we have here. And that'll be the extra distance added between all of those. So we just like divide that modulo by this integer. And that will then get added to this. And become that instead. And we'll do the same for this. So we get this modulo, this, and we'll add those with this, and that goes into there, and now it should space them out equal. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not quite. Where did I go wrong? Hold on, this doesn't connect up to anything now. Oh. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess since it's always going to be... Okay, so hold on. This is particle size. This comes from the Y, so that goes into the Y. And then this one goes into the X. And then this one goes into the Y. I'll clean this up in a moment. That's not doing what I thought it would be doing. That should be working, right? Oh, hold on. These need to also be multiplying by 2. It's probably the issue. Maybe. I'm just guessing at this point. Matter of fact, those probably should just come from the same node anyway. Okay, so now they're more equally spaced out, but not exactly in the way that I intended, to be honest with you. Because, of course, now it also offsets the first one, which creates slight issues. So maybe what we do instead is... How do we fix that in a easy way? Because we don't want to change the first one. So I guess we... But we do want to offset the last one. So we just take out the first one in the total amount for the division. So we... -1 for both of these. And then this one goes into there. This one goes into there. And only for everything over index. But that's kind of annoying, right? Yeah, I think we shouldn't, maybe we shouldn't bother too much with that. I think this is good enough for now. We can always come back to this and like fine tune this later. But if we now make this 300 by 300, we have everything properly lined up. And it is a 350 by 350. There's a little bit of extra space at the edges, which is, again, not ideal. And it is at both sides now. It's also not evenly spaced out still, not in the slightest. So actually my code straight up just does not do what I thought it would do. Right? Yeah, no, it doesn't. Oh, because they all get a little bit added. No, but they should all... they should all have the same amount added, right? Because what I'm thinking right now is the way that we could maybe do this is like also multiplying this by those indexes. So we get these, and then for this one, we multiply this with the index. That will also make the first one. That definitely should be a float output. That would also make the first one stick at the beginning, and the last one be offset more. But wouldn't that then also create an issue where the further in they go, the more offset they get? That is what that would do. Maybe not. Maybe this actually works. Again, my brain isn't quite oh yeah, so that is, I think, not what I want. Then again, actually no, that is what I want. Because if we change this to a better better little thing, so let's just make a quick Niagara system. It's gonna be is pretty temporary. FX fire fountain. I literally just got a particle system thing for the free for the month pack, which is like rocket thruster, so we might as well use that actually. Why don't you compile? It's a little weird. There we go. First and foremost, we don't want gravity for these, and then let's make the initialize particle, the size from like 10 to 15. I think that's good enough. So if we change it to that instead, which is like right in here. Yeah, so you see now, okay, it actually does work. So now the particle systems are always on the actual lines of the damage box. So the particles themselves will be a good indication, even give you a little bit of margin of error for where the damage box is. So you'll never have a situation where the particles end here, but the damage box extends, right? So if I set this to like 150 by 150, it just has those four corners. If I set this to 190 by 190, it's not going to add in extra particle systems because I've got this particle size set to 100, but it does space them all out evenly. If I set this to 1550 by 1550, that's a lot of fucking particles, but it still has everything. Like the end ones are still exactly on the outer line, which is what I want. This indeed is very WWE at this moment. So I'll go back to 250 by 250. And the wonderful thing is, because of how I have this set up, it doesn't really like you to do this live. The box changes, but it also doesn't do anything weird with the Z location, so that's actually quite nice. So let's set that to like 200. So now that we have that, that's actually the most important part. So we activate that, we go through the entire Niagara Flame thing. You can also see that it's adding all the Niagara components properly. And we can very easily say, actually, I want a particle size. Oh, it's set to 200 here as well. I want the particle size for this to be like 50, and it adds a bunch more of them. So it's very much more like tight now. But I think like 100 was pretty good, actually. So probably want to collapse all this down into a function, actually, because we're going to have more or less the exact same thing happening So let's see, this can stay here. But everything about this, we're going to be collapsing down to a function. Except for these two nodes. These will be inputs. Because we're going to be adding more particle systems for like a warning system, kind of. So if we just collapse this into a function, create fire systems. We can do all of that again, and then just size is invec. Box extend is also invec, sure. And then we'll just have a different target array. So we have the Niagara like warning glow, I'll call it. I don't really know what else to call it. But those will be different. And I will also actually, now I think about it, set Niagara system asset. We also want to do that. Because those are going to be different between the two of those. Yes, so in asset is also going to be a in parameter. And for these, that will be the, let's just do the, like the fire fountain that we just made. And then for these, it'll be fucking something else. Let's move this over actually to the VFX tab. Where to put it? The naming convention is so inconsistent here, it's kind of insane. Okay, we have that, and then I'm just going to copy this over, honestly. We'll call this fire warning. And fire warning will be... Also want to set auto activate to false for both of them in a moment. Worry about that in a second. That's fine. Here we're going to add velocity a lot less. So it'll be like 100 to 150. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so what we'll do, finally, is we will set the warning glow particles all to activate. We'll also set for the thing here. I think we can just set it in here for auto activate to false, like in this node. It's kind of nice that you can do that. So now it shouldn't auto activate anything. Fantastic. And let's just, before we start putting this into places, save everything before anything crashes, because that might happen. Let's go into our animation level so that we can test this out a little bit easier and in a safer environment. So we have, I think it's in the blueprints, I put it, the hazard, there we go. So we have that in there. And the actual behavior will be, we activate all of these, then we wait for a time, and then we activate all these, and then we generate overlap events. After another very small delay, like 0.15. So that there's a little bit of time. You already have a warning, so maybe that's not entirely necessary, but we're going to do it anyway. And then, I think, once we set the overlap events to being true, what we also might as well do is we might as well deactivate all these. We don't need that. Maybe not. We'll see how that actually ends up looking. But for now, we'll deactivate all of the warning systems as well, just because it's like another 100 particle systems that don't have to run potentially, which is kind of nice. But maybe we'll just keep them activated and deactivate them with all this. And then with the deactivation hazard is we're just going to deactivate everything and immediately set overlap event to false. We're not going to wait for them to like fizzle out or anything. Like the moment they stop spewing flames is when there's not going to be any overlap anymore. And then we have the passive time delay and then it goes active again and so on and so forth. So that should work now. So let's take a look. Active time will be 2 seconds. Passive time will be 4 seconds. Time between thick and overlap will be 0.2. And start delay will be 0.2. That should be fine. Okay, something's not quite working yet. Is that... Why is that? It's a fantastic question. Let's check and look. Oh, yeah, so I don't think the Niagara warning glow is getting reset, so it's giving some errors. And that's why we need to reset these. or clear these arrays on the construction, because otherwise they freak the hell out. But they still don't seem to be showing the way I would expect them to be showing. Why is that? Let's set auto activate real quick as a parameter here as well. Just for testing purposes, I'm not actually going to use that, I don't think. But right now we can say set auto activate for fire system to false and for the warning systems to true. It does have, that makes sense. They look different in the blueprint than they do here. Oh no, it's just I was zoomed out. I think we just need the velocity to be even lower. Like maybe 20 to 50. And I might need to just be some more time in between as well. Yeah, I think it's a matter of time. Okay, so we have the time between active and overlap is only 0.2 seconds. It probably should be like a second and a half. I think that works pretty well. Like you can see, oh, I need to get the hell out of Dodge. I'm safe now. I can walk here, I can walk here, I can walk here, I can do whatever I want. Oh no, I gotta fuck off, and that's plenty of time. So yeah, I think we're pretty much good to go on that front. We need to fine-tune all this stuff, of course. But now, the fun part begins, and that is we need to make this thing damage to player on overlap, I think. So I think we just... we already have code for that somewhere that we can just copy over. Which I think is just, we need to give it a ability system components, and then I'm just gonna go into my I call it like laser bolt electric bolt bar auto move or electric bar move. So yeah, on a begin overlap, we just kind of like do all this. It's badly programmed, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll damage the player now. That's the most important thing. I don't know if damaging the player will do anything in this. I don't think it does, because I don't think I have HP. Also, fantastic question. If you're already overlapping something and its overlap events are getting set to true, does it actually generate an overlap event? I don't know. Also, why is it checking if other actor is valid? Oh, get ability system component should be checked for validity. That makes a lot more sense. And we're checking the ability system component on the other actor. There we go. Are we never checking if it's the player? I mean, we're casting to the player here, but all this stuff is player specific as well. Oh, I get, I guess. Well, that seems to kind of work. Probably works in the actual level. Okay, so let's see. If this turns on, does it generate an overlap event initially? It does. Fantastic. The only thing that I need to make sure is that the fire hazards collision box starts with collision overlap to false. So generate overlap events should be false until it is set to true. I think that's kind of... there's an overlap on begin play, but it's not on begin play is the issue. Unless you're referring to the fact that it is set to true, set to overlap initially, I fixed that. But it's not the thing that is on begin play. It's just whenever this value gets changed, does it also run a collision like overlap check? Apparently it does, so that's good. So let's check this now in the context of the actual game level. Because I'm assuming what's happening is, oh no, I know what's happening actually. I think the issue is, yeah, so it just doesn't have the attribute sets set up. So default starting data will be enemy attribute sets, and I will give this one. I'm just giving them the demons attribute set for now. We'll go back over and maybe change these at some point. That should now, yeah, that actually knocks me out of it. Well, there we go. Our fire works. So we can run out of it, and that's just in time. And if we're like, oh, we can make it, we can make it, we can make it, we can make it, we can make it. No, we cannot make it. And sometimes maybe it'll juggle you. I don't know. Hopefully not. So yeah. That works. Fantastic. Let's go back into the actual level that we have to put this stuff into. So that'll be 113. Just somewhere around here. Oh, weird corner stuff. Yeah, so that only took like an hour. Kind of stupid, but we'll go into unlit mode for now. Actually, no, we're going to be playtesting through here anyway. At which point we might as well set our default pawn class back to BP third person character. Don't forget to remove that in a moment again, because otherwise it's going to be spawning in double characters, and we don't want that because that makes things buggy. And we don't like bugs. Unless they're also bunnies. So let's put in a skylight, is what I'm saying. Am I even slightly coherent at all? Because I feel like I'm not. Anyway, so where did we want to put those things? Somewhere, not there, here. Yeah. So, oh, especially with Lumen, this is gonna fucking look fantastic. We can just get this transform. And that is actually pretty much perfect. If we then just moved in the local space. We can then figure out how big it needs to be. So that would be X, that's Y. So that is, I think, like 400. Once again, perfect. Well, yeah, there we go. It's just that. Now we need to set up the timings for them all. So I think the time between is going to be like, yeah, 1.5 seconds seems pretty good. The active time, set it to 3 seconds, and passive time to like 5 seconds. And then the start delay for this one will be 0. And then we can just kind of copy them over. Oh, we also need to set up variables for the actual fire like systems. Needs to be a little bit of room for people to stand on where they won't be. I think I'm also going to be adding like static meshes or something like that in those arrays, but we'll worry about that in a moment. Just to show where the dangerous bits are. And I don't think we want to have any dangerous bits there. So it's just these like 3. So now we need to do a little bit of quick math, which is to say this is going to stay on. Okay, so this is going to take. It's going to start by being active, so it's going to stay on for 5 seconds. It's going to take 1.5 seconds to start. And it's going to stay on for 5 seconds. And it's going to stay off for 3 seconds. So, when should the next one start? How do we decide that, right? I guess we have the delay of each one being offset by the active time in this case, right? So we have oh, these things line up a little too well with the wall. I can't actually select them. Well, once I have static meshes, that'll also be fixed up. So if this one starts 3 seconds in, and this one starts 6 seconds in, that should pretty much line them up properly. Okay, so now before we move on, I'm going to be adding static meshes to these things as well, because fuck me. Fire hazard. I guess I'll just create fire systems, create static meshes. And we, for now, don't need to do anything with like literally anything there. It's just add static mesh components. And we split, and we split. We just plug this into there, this into there. I think that's all there is to it. Well, of course, we can then start static mesh, which will promote to a variable. I'll just call it mesh. I don't care. And then Niagara Flames. And let's promote both of these. Oh, we also do need to then size. Oh, this one doesn't need to have that or that, so we can get rid of inputs here. Yes. And then we just promote both of these two variables as well. So these will be the fire FX, and these will be the warning FX. These don't need to be public. These all need to be public. We'll give them categories at some point, I'm sure. And then we'll give these a... Now we need to figure out a default value that makes sense for these, because I don't think a sphere is going to be... I might have connected those up wrong. Hold on. Yeah, I plugged them into the Y and the Z. It should be the X and the Y. It's my bad. Yeah, so these are a little bit too big. Do we have smaller spheres? Are all spheres 1 meter cubed? It's slightly different size or different UV layout anyway. You know? I was going to say I don't hate it, but I kind of do. Got a new water bottle, and this one isn't made out of plastic, so it's kind of weird that sucking on the... This sounds so weird. That sucking on the water spout doesn't let you drink more water. You literally have to let gravity do the work, and that's kind of weirding me out. Yeah, let's just make something quick. I can just go into modeling mode, and this is where modeling mode really shines, right? Because we can just put down a cylinder, and I can say, this one's maybe the radius should be 30, and the height will be 20. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, is it? This will be good. I think it's just inside of... Yeah, there we go. We can then polygroup edit, select this face, inset it to right there, push pull it down with snapping turned off, and then we just take this and scale it down. And there we have our flame emitter thingy. It's a temporary thing, right? This actually looks remarkably not shit. Well, aside from the fact that they're literally inside the walls as well. That's the maybe slight downside to it, but... Yeah, see... the thing is, I can move this over here. Well, the player can't squeeze past this anyway, I don't think. So let's see if we just 1, 2, 3. And then the size will be... Oh, that's the wrong one. Still has to be 400. But this will be 190 wide instead. Oh, yeah, okay. Now that definitely needs to be like 210 to 20. Yeah, let's copy over this size and paste them into the other ones. Where's the last one? Wait, does this one not have... Oh, that's... Oh, it's just down in there. There we go. Then I think it was like 1, 2, 3 units, or 30 units rather, moving over. And I will also move them away from the wall by like 30 units in a moment. That's probably good enough. Again, there is a little bit of a gap between there and the wall now, but not a gap that's large enough for the player to fit in anyway, so it's fine. And then this one, I can actually just say, hey, we make this... maybe even like 380, 390, 385. So we don't even need to move anything. Well, this one we would need to move. And maybe for all of these, we also need the particle size to be a little bit like 150. Just have a bit more going on for them. That makes it more clear that there's something going on there, right? I hate it. I don't hate it, but I kind of do. Yeah, it's a temporary model. It's fine. We'll make something more fancy eventually. Maybe. Maybe we'll just slap a material on this and be done with it. We'll see. How about we give this a test run? Because we have this 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we want to give this a test run now. So we have... Yeah, this is pretty much what I envisioned. Like, it keeps you from just rushing your way down. Is it possible to get back up? Well, yeah, because we've got these little bits that we can stand on. Oh, it's... The particle systems might need a little bit of work, because they imply that there's a lot more damage area going on than there actually is in like the upward direction. But it is even like feasible to get back up, which is the important part, because this entire thing leads to an area where you can grind experience. I already have an ID for like an enemy that I'm going to put there. Initially, it was just going to be a spawner that endlessly spawns enemies, but I had this ID based on actually like new RuneScape content coming out. They're adding enraged bosses to RuneScape, old school. Which is a boss that you can beat, and once you've beaten it, you can choose to fight it again at a hard difficulty. And I was like, that's actually a fantastic idea for like my grinding room. We could just put like a enemy or a mini boss in there, and when you defeat it, after like 5 seconds, it resets its HP instead of dying. It resets its HP and its strength and like all its stats go up by like 10%, but then the next time you beat it, you also get like 5% more experience. Or maybe they'll both go up by like 10% or something like that. I think that's going to be the way that I do like that grinding room. Just for anybody who wants to like grind out some more experience. That'll be also a fun challenge that is a little less monotonous than just killing the same enemies over and over again. It is killing the same enemy over and over again, but it's also a good challenge to see like how far can I take this? Because there's not going to be an end in sight there. It's just every time you beat him, he's going to get a percentage extra in his stats. At some point, he's going to be a pain in the ass to beat. At which point, you leave the room and you come back. But in order to get that experience, you need to leave and like make your way through here again, which is, I mean, just jumping down here isn't that difficult, but you need to also make your way through this area, which obviously needs to be possible. So I'm kind of happy with how this is turning out. So fucking maybe we do some with this though. Do I have any like fire materials anywhere in here? Maybe I don't. I do have like a flip book. Particle fire flip book. What does that look like? Like not that good. I'll probably. Yeah, I don't think that's pretty at all. um. What did I call the other one? Because I have this. Where do these get referenced? Just reference viewer, right? Our material instance burst appear, which is okay. We can figure this out. We'll get there. I made a material at some point for flip books. I just burst appear material. I probably should just call this basic flipbook material, because that's kind of what it does. Oh no, it's got hard-coded colors in it actually. Well, for now we'll just put that one in there anyway, because it looks better than the default one, I think. Yo, what, mate? Huh? Oh, that's the wrong material. That's definitely the wrong material. Death particles. Yeah, that's what I want, the death particles. So this is what I want, this material. Because that's just flames. And that's flames that I made myself. Well, I made them with Ambergen, but I made them myself with Ambergens. Default setup. But you'll notice that these look... it's not even the system that I thought it was going to be. It's because I have this appear vortex. Yeah, exactly. So I want the material for death particles. Okay, death particles, because those are just flames. So if I make these flames bigger and I set the particle color for them, we'll be somewhere. So initialize particle, we're going to set this to like 25 to 40 instead. Maybe even bigger, honestly, like 40 to 70. And then the initial velocity, thinking we down to 400 to 550. And then we add some curl noise force with more strength. And maybe a higher frequency. Even more strength. Okay, that's maybe a bit too much. And then maybe we add a vortex force to the entire thing as well. Make them spin a little bit, you know. But also make them pull back to the center. I don't know. We'll also scale the color of the particle. And we'll scale the RGB and A together, that's fine. Vector 4 on curve. Start as yellow and as red. Maybe go red a little sooner. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Just want to pull this over. That's kind of orangey at the end still. Maybe I'd make it more proper red. And then the spawn rate also should be like 250 instead. Maybe even more than 250 to be honest, like 500. And the initialized particle or the shape location has a sphere of a slightly, maybe not that much. You know? I think that's pretty good. That said, I think it should be purple. It should probably be purple fire. Because of dungeon theme and stuff. So let's go back to scale color. And then we'll start at this like deeper purple. And we'll move up to this almost pink color. And we'll do that pretty quickly. And then we'll maybe move up to a slightly desaturated for the end. And then I think what I want to do is I want to multiply this with a float. But I can't do that. Okay. Can we multiply this with a float? No. We can definitely if we RGBA separately. So we can like curve. Oh no, hold on. What we do is... I don't care about the alpha, to be honest with you. We multiply vector and we get a vector from float. And we get a float from curve. And then we get these from a curve as well. Can we do that with a color instead? And then color from curve. There we go. So we can start by making, well, maybe actually make this more of like a deeper blue color. and move that into a more pink. And then we end off with it being like a slightly more like pastel version of pink. It's still not quite there, is it? What are you making? A fire spout thingy. I think at this point it's honestly just a matter of, hey, we need to be spawning in like 1500 particles per. And maybe just have a battle flip book as well. For this purpose. Definitely going to want to set this to GPU though. Because otherwise it's going to be a pain in the ass. To render this many of. And then the fire hazard itself, or the fire warning rather, we had. So let's just like copy this over into the fire warning. And what we'll do is we'll change the velocity here to 50 to 70. And we'll... You can definitely see there's a lot more rotation happening. I will worry about the colors in a moment. Vortex force. Bring that back a fair bit to like 100. Good day, a bit late to the stream. I'll be back in a bit to sidetrack you. I'm good. I'm good with that sidetracks. Nah, that's fine. I like being sidetracked. Maybe it's just okay. So maybe what actually needs to happen. I think I figured it out. I think this is just moving too slowly. The flip books. I think it needs to be more violent, so the lifetime just needs to go down. Very difficult with that method for colors. I don't know. If you just use RGB color, then you don't need a curve. Yeah, but I want them to change over their lifetime, so that's why I need a curve. If I just set it to one value, I mean, I can just set initialize particle and then just set the color here. I mean, that's fine. But then it's one color throughout the entire lifetime. If you make RGB color, then you don't need to curve, because that does default by normalized age. Yeah, but that is what a curve is. I don't think I'm getting you. I mean, this is the same. This is the same system. So if I go here, like this is, I haven't implemented this bit yet. This is this is for the intensity. So what I wanna do is I wanna start the intensity at like here-ish. Just like actually I want to start it at 1. Then about halfway through I want to set it to 2. And then I want to zoom the fuck out of this. And then about there, I want it to still be at 2, and then I want it to go back down so that it's a little bit more bright here in the center. Two things that I need to highlight that because I entirely forgot that I was going to do that. That's why I'm multiplying by this float here, because I want to have separate control over that. If I just wanted a linear curve down, that's just what that already does. But now I also have the scale index curve, so I can just set this to like that. And that's already starting to look better. But I do think that the lifetime should be shorter probably as well. So we probably should set the lifetime to something like 0.5 to 0.7. Yeah, that seems a bit better, doesn't it? And then we can set this back to 700 to 850. And this looks like a more violent fire now. Where this one only, I mean, this one probably doesn't even need to have a vortex force, to be honest with you. Not even a cruel noise force, just only that. But also have this as a lower value, so 0.4 to 0.7. I guess it depends where you set the root of the box, but I think the you can define that separately. I don't see how the root of my box has anything to do with the color. I suppose you can make a material where it changes color based on Z height, if that's what you mean, but I don't know. Hello, Sick Robo Pirate. How you doing? What the fuck happened to this scale color? Where did, what the fuck? Copy this one over. Probably should just make this. Did I just close that? For fuck's sake. Aside from me just closing the thing that I was working on, I'm doing good. So yeah, why does this, what the fuck am I doing? Why does this not copy over? We have the scale color. Oh, there we go. I was just looking at the wrong one. Yeah, why are you just white? Guess I'm just spawning too many of these fuckers in this one. I will just make this 500, 100. Yeah, so just too bright for this one. Why does this? My brain's not braining, man. Let's add this to like 100 to 150. I think we can just do this like 200 to 250. And then make the particle life size very short. Maybe not quite that short though. I don't think for these ones I need to scale the color, to be honest. I think these just being purple is fine. Let's look at how this feels like in action. All this is pretty temporary. Oh my god. All that is pretty temporary anyway. Like, we're going to probably come back to this and make better looking particles at some point. But I don't dislike it. I mean, that looks kind of neat, right? That looks, yeah, I quite like that. It has a little bit of a warning, and then it has a go fuck yourself, there's fire now. Yeah, it doesn't even look that bad in game. Like, if we go in, just for shits and giggles, if we go in now and we go into the settings, set scalability to epic. Oh, these don't actually emit light, do they? I wonder why that is. Because I think they should. Oh yeah, of course, that's going to damage me. Yeah, because of the material, do I not have that hooked up to the... I do have it hooked up to the emissive color. So why does that not emit light? Because it should. Hold on. Hold on a moment. Oh, this looks kind of neat. So yeah, why does this not emit light into the world? Because I'm fairly certain that it should. Maybe it is, but just not a lot. At which point, I just say, fire fountain, scale curve, fucking 15. Let's go 50. Box size dot x divided by amount of spawning is your spacing. Then for loop to increment over the start position. I don't think you are. Are you like an hour behind? Because I don't think live chat quite works that way. Because it sounds like you're looking at. But why would you be talking about colors then? I don't know. Yeah, so is this now actually emitting a light into the world? I don't think it is still. What would that be? I'll just set this to something ridiculous like 500. Do particles with emissive materials not do that? I could have sworn they do. They're definitely glowing. Huh. Let me Google that real quick. Unreal lumen particles not emitting light. Wasn't on the live feed. Yeah, I kind of figured. I guess particle materials. Oh, maybe because they're additive. Let me just try this so that I know what's going on. So I guess because this is additive instead of just normal opaque, we're gonna set this back to additive in a moment. Yeah, so this does actually emit light into world. If this were translucent, which is horrible for performance, even translucent does do it. It does need to be opaque for that to do the thing. Okay, I didn't know that. That's actually interesting. I'm guessing masked would also do it then? Or maybe even masked. Okay, so masked would do it. Well, it doesn't really help me though, because we're not going to do it that way. We're going to keep an additive. But that does mean that it's not actually going to be emitting light into the world. Today I learned. Let's set this back to a reasonable size, like 25. Maybe even 15. Yeah, now let's just put in the... Oh, the skylight doesn't work because of... I think we can just... shadow... Nope. Oh, it's because it's procedurally done. Yeah, so we're not going to bother with that right now. We'll just set our quality back to medium. And there we go. Okay, all that out of the way. It is pretty sudden in... Well, no, actually it's pretty good. Ow, that does hurt. It's kind of tricky, right? Because I'm spawning in a buttload of particles here, and I'm like, but maybe we can do more. Maybe we can do more. Maybe I can set this to like 90. We can have all this. Because it does feel like this fills out the area a little bit more. But this might be a bit too much in terms of particles. And this is the one downside to having upgraded my GPU. It's fucking impossible for me to tell if this is too much as far as like performance goes. But it does look very intimidating. Particle size is already pretty big. But I could probably make the particles a little bit bigger and spawn some less of them. But the issue isn't particularly like these are spawning 1500 particles a second per piece. So I can get that down a little bit. It's mostly the fact that I'm spawning in like at this point, what is it? This is a flipbook already. So you can just add 6 additive flames. 1500 is not that bad. Like these are GPU rendered, right? So 1500 is not that bad. It's just like it's 1500 times. Could probably get away with bigger ones and less, but it's not that bad. Where the fuck is? Oh, it's block out material. What did I even have to select? There we go. So this has got. Oh, it doesn't show anymore. Hold on. Yeah, so each one of these has 45 of those systems, and then 45 of the warning systems, but those are not really the ones that I'm worried about. So that's 45 times 1500, which is like about 60,000 times 3. It's about 180,000 particles. But really only like one, sometimes two of these at a time are active anyway. So like it's not that big a deal for GPU particles to have like 50 to 100,000 happening at any single time. The shader complexity is also stupidly simple. Like this is the entire shader. It's a flipbook that goes through the flipbook through the particle's lifetime and multiplies the result with the particle color, and the same with the opacity. Like the shader's complexity is as simple as it gets. But I can try to see if I set the particle size to bigger, like 100 to 150, and set the spawn rate to like half. It's still pretty good. Like to 500, that's still pretty good. 100 starts being a little bad. We're talking about the overdraw of the transparency. It's additive material, so it's probably not that bad. Probably could also scale them up over their lifetime. You have a point there. But yeah, I think 200 does the trick fine, and that gets rid of what is that, like 80% of the particles already. So now we're doing 200 times 45. So that's only 9,000 per each one of these, and that's more than okay. It's fire, so you would want to scale them up, not down. Like fire expands as it goes along. But like there's actually no visual difference here at this point. So yeah, just going down to those 200 particles is probably a lot better. And again, those ones, those like warning ones, they can be a little bit more like harsh because they only exist for a little while. Maybe if we have that many of them anyway, maybe it is fine to lower this down to 100 even. I'm just trying to get a pretty decent like fine tune here. It doesn't need to be anything like close to finalized, of course. But you can see that they cycle through in such a way that only one of them really is active at a time. For the most part, right? Like this one stops right around the time that this one starts. And then that one stops when that one starts. And so on and so forth. So yeah, we're at about like 10,000 particles. And okay, there's a little bit of pop in because of the GPU thing. But we're about at 10k particles existing at any given time in this setup, and that's fine. But we might want to... it's kind of interesting how they all disappeared together. Because I don't think that's how that should be working, but hey, what do you know? I don't think you can use dynamic, right? The emitter GPU is using dynamic bounce mode. Please update the emitter or system properties, otherwise the bounce may be incorrect. So that's what you say, but maybe it just works good. I don't think it will work good, but we can give it a shot. Right. I think what I need to do is I need to just not die first and foremost, pretty please, while going back up. I think I just need the like the bounce to be a fair bit bigger, because right now we have this issue where they like pop out of existence a little bit too easily, because the origin points aren't being seen. That's so yeah, that's the issue with GPU particles. So I guess what we do is, I don't know, how tall will these be? Like 700 units? Yeah, that pretty much does the trick. So as long as the bounds are on screen, it'll show them, right? So yeah, that's good. Just triple those values and scale down. Why would I need to scale down? Just need those value, like it just needed to have a higher Z value so that it still has like bounds in your viewport. Oh, in that way, 700 is fine. Again, I'm not overly worried about them being like optimized to a T. I'd rather err on the side of safety where they don't pop out instead of having to render one less of them sometimes, maybe. For the most part, again, you're going to be seeing them anyway. It's just to prevent pop out or pop in, whatever. Or pop out, I would say. Let's set this back to game settings so that we can see. Okay, so now that we have that stuff worked out, that only took an hour and a half. This is done. Yeah, it's just a little bit more spicier, and we have another one of these hazards now that we can put anywhere in the game that we want. So that's kind of nice. I guess we move on to the next room then, which means that we move back to the persistent level. So let's do that. Persistent world, which is misspelled, I know. It bothers me as much as it bothers you, but not enough to actually change it. Oh, where does my content... Can you just like go fuck off, please? Hello? Okay, thank you. What is the next map to be doing? It is... So yeah, this probably performs pretty well, but it's kind of difficult to judge at this point for me if I go overboard with doing something. Like 1500 particles was excessive. Like 100 works fine. 50 might have even worked fine in that case. But it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Okay, so what does this area need to do? It needs to have platforming to make your way up to this door. And this doesn't do anything yet. It needs to have a... At this point, it's a combat challenge, but it could be anything, really. It needs to have something going on that allows you to get to this door. Preferably something gameplay involved. And then we do this like T-split. We'll get to that when we get to that. Let's get rid of anything that we don't need for like the rough blockout purposes. We'll look into the level blueprint for this in a moment. And then this can go. This one can go. That one can go. Okay, let's do the quick blockout of the room. And let's move the entire room down a fair bit as well. Yes. Block out block. Get this transform. Put it on there. Set put it on there. Set put it the fuck on there. Probably just didn't. Oh, it's got... This one has got mobility, does it? Why does it have mobility? This is just a static mesh actor, I guess. Well, then we'll just copy over the rotation. And the location. And then this one can go. What? Well, the rotation is fixed up, so we might as well just manually put this thing in place. I don't know. Oh, it also needs to go in the other corner anyway. No, it doesn't, because we can just turn them around like that. It's not an exact science, this whole level design thing. Kind of is. Oh, I never actually did the scaling of the particles, did I? I do like that idea. Scale size. We can start them at 0.5 and then end them at 1.5. Makes them just grow a little bit over their lifetime. Feels a little bit more fiery. Yeah, we did some particles and we set up, I'll show you in a moment, once this floor is in. And I can delete all this. We also made this fire hazard blueprint that I'm going to be probably abusing the hell out of throughout the rest of this game because it's quite nice. We have this hazard blueprint now, which has a mesh, a fire effect, and a warning effect. And we can just say, hey, we want this to be larger, and it just like procedurally adds everything and creates like offsets so that everything is like properly aligned to the sides and whatever. So no matter how big these things get, they will always be not evenly spaced out, but spaced out in such a way that the edges are always nicely marked. And then they give a little bit of a warning particle system. Then they wait for a variable amount of time here. and then they shoot out the proper particle systems with a tiny delay, turns on the damage box, waits, turns off the damage box and the particle systems, and then waits, and then repeats the whole cycle. So we made that as well. And then we made the particles for those and put them into the level that I wanted to make them for. And that's the past hour and a half. Again, my brain is working on like 5% capacity because I had a rather exhausting in some ways day yesterday. And I haven't fully recovered yet from all that. So we're just kind of coping at this point. Is this a nav mesh volume? I think it's a nav mesh volume. Yeah, we'll see if we need that or not. These definitely need to be in the proper streaming level before I forget. So what is that streaming level? That is 110. Wall Breaker Platforming. What a fantastic name. Move selected actors to level. Oh, this is going to bother me, so let's just move it over. So yeah, I do think that I'm going to be using that blueprint fairly regularly, probably. More sense to do this like that. Because it is quite a nice one. I'll also move this one just down there for now. All that said, I have no clue in my mind what we're going to do with this room. Because this is the room that needs to lead into another dungeon. But also into the like pre-boss room. So what in the fuck do we do for that? Now I need to actually be somewhat creative. Up until now we only needed to do programming things. But now I need to put my creative muscles to the test a little bit more. Let's delete these as well. Okay. So I'm thinking this definitely needs to be a out of the way type thing where we need to platform to it. So that probably means that this room as a whole needs to be a fair bit like higher. Which means that all of these need to be like 2,500. Oh, even more, like 3,500, like 4,000. Have it your fucking way. Units tall. And then pre-boss room sounds like I need a dopamine now type room. Challenge me before you get to the boss room. Maybe, yeah. Maybe. The pre-boss room, it's well, to be fair, what this is in context is we have this entire dungeon, right? You enter through here, ideally. There's also some other entrances through like the red dungeon coming in this way, or through that blue dungeon coming in this way. So there's a bunch of ways that you can enter this, but the ideal way is like the actual entrance is here. And then you go through here or through there to get to the middle, where you do a combat encounter to earn yourself a key, one of 3 keys. Then you go through here and you get a split, but you do need to go through here to get to this place, where you do your platforming challenges. We designed that over the past week to get a key. Then you can go on here to get to a room where you can just like grind experience. But the other side of this like T-split leads you to this place here, which we're designing right now. And that leads into this other T-split hallway, one of which goes into this room where the amount of keys that you've collected in this dungeon gets checked. And if all 3 keys have been collected, this door just disappears. and allows you to move through. Hold on a moment, we'll get there. Allows you to move through into the actual boss room, like that. And then the other side of this T-split is going to be a room that I still have to make, which like gives you a mini game to play, or like a genre shift or whatever you want to call that. There's not quite the pre-boss room yet. Like, this is the pre-boss room. This is just a check for, hey, have you done everything in this dungeon to unlock the boss fight? But this is just the room that leads in that general direction. It's kind of just a connecting room, honestly. There isn't that much going on here, and I don't really know what I want to do with this. This entire dungeon, of course, at this point, I think I've explained this a million times to the people who watch regularly, but this entire dungeon is themed after like an underground catacomb. Or a crypt or a tomb or whatever you want to call that. Semantics. So, I'm very heavily inspired, of course, with stuff like this by the Paris catacombs. So, maybe we can do something that just kind of leans into the themes of that, but I don't really know what that would be too much. I haven't really considered anything yet, but let's put this door in here somewhere. But the initial version of this, the idea was that you have a combat encounter and you need to like get rid of all the enemies in the room. And once you've done that, the door opens up and leads you through here. An alternative idea was that you have just a wall that you need to break through, but I don't love that personally. So, and I also don't really love the idea that it's just yet another combat encounter. Because we already have one of the keys is a combat encounter. That's just like a spawner that spawns in enemies. And when you defeat them all, you get the key. So like, how is this different? Aside from the fact that there's not a spawner and there's not like a second or a third wave of enemies. Well, I suppose that in and of itself is a difference, to be fair. But I don't know if I consider that to be a big enough difference. Because those combat rooms should feel at least somewhat special. And I don't want to rely on, hey, I don't know what to do, let's just throw in some enemies too much. Obviously, this is an action RPG, so there's going to be quite a lot of that. But I don't want to be a crutch that I lean on too much. What if it's an unkillable enemy that is a tease of the boss where the player has to avoid attacks while solving some type of puzzle? I don't know about a tease for the boss. An unkillable enemy sounds maybe like an interesting idea. Sounds like a potentially interesting idea. Because it could work in both directions, right? We could have... I don't like adding in too many puzzle elements. But we could have some sort of puzzle, then we need to start deciding what we want to do with the puzzle. But that unkillable enemy also is at the same time a good obstacle to prevent you doing the platforming to get to here. That does require it to either be able to teleport or to fly, because you're going to be platforming up here. Let's move this over there. Feels like there's going to be a little bit more of a path there. Like if we platform something like up here and then over across like this and then up a little bit. Get a little bit more platforming action there. So for the platforming, I think that's not a bad idea. I need to figure out. The issue with flying enemies is that the code that I have for flying navigation is shit. And it turns out making proper like 3-dimensional movement code is a pain in the ass. Such a pain in the ass that Unreal doesn't have built-in support for it. Well, it has built-in support for like, not even actually, never mind. I was gonna say it has built-in support for moving in 3 dimensions, but I don't think it does. Because it doesn't have like 3-dimensional like nav mesh, like nav volumes. Like when you do a nav mesh volume, it projects a 2-dimensional mesh that characters can move over. But if you suddenly need a floating 3D character, you effectively need to make your own navigation code, and mine is kind of bad at the moment. So I'm still kind of thinking that I need to. There's a plugin on the marketplace that is just that creates A-star pathfinding movement in 3D space. I probably just need to buy that because I've tried to create my own implementations of some sort of like very basic line tracer based system. It's just not quite it, man. It's just not quite it. There's a plugin for 3D nav mesh. It's like $300. Yeah, so I'm not getting the $300 one. I think there's also a more bare bones one that's like $50, which I might get, but I'm not getting the very expensive one. You could fake it by having an actor on a sequence movement path, just dumb AI. Yeah, so for a lot of situations that would work. That is how I have my boss fight here, for instance. It just fucking moves along a spline. And it's technically even on the ground, but doesn't need to be. I can just move it up because it doesn't have any gravity or anything. So it just moves along the spline. But the moment it needs to like interactively start chasing the player around a like less than set path, that kind of falls apart. Because at that point you're like generating splines on the fly to move across, and that's not that good to do. Homing could do the work too. Yeah, I don't like. I've seen people implement AI movement for flying characters with a projectile movement component. That's just homing. That's not much better than what I have at the moment, to be honest. Like what I have sucks, but that also has very similar limitations. Namely, that being if they get stuck on a wall, they just hang out at that wall until they die. Or until you walk up behind them, at which point they do like a new path tracer in my case. Because what the homing projectile movement component does is effectively what my characters are also doing, and that is they just move in the direction of your character. For me, it just does a line trace first to see whether or not there is a direct like line of sight. And I think what it does is if it can't get the direct line of sight because it does a capsule trace, not just a line trace, it moves to the furthest position that it can move, and then it does another line trace or another capsule trace. Something like that. I don't remember, but it kind of sucks the way I do it. It's also kind of laggy in its movement. But that's because it's tied to the behavior tree. I think, which I don't know exactly how often the behavior tree runs. Probably just every frame, right? I don't know. I don't particularly care. So yeah, flying enemies are a bit of a sore spot in the game at the moment because they are a pain. So I try to avoid doing those as much as possible. But I could make something that is not actually an enemy, but like feels like one, and just goes in a set path, I guess. I kind of like the invincible enemy angle. I do. I'm just trying to think, okay, but then what, right? For the platforming, that kind of just like writes itself. Almost drowned myself in my water. Um, because a character that's just pestering you while you're platforming, that you cannot kill, is everything you need. You can also just put the mesh up so it looks like they're flying. I mean, that has many other problems because then the collision is all based on the collision on the ground and the mesh itself won't have collision. I suppose you could add another capsule collision to the mesh, but the character movement component wouldn't consider that one. Yeah, no. Uh, nice idea, though. Let's just start by putting down some blocks for platforming and then we'll see what we do with the rest. Like 400 by 500. I don't fucking know. Just do something. Move it 180 degrees. Add some fire limits from the wall. Players have to dodge that. Maybe the platforms are unstable, fall, disappear, and then reappear by pressing some type of lever or button. I need to also, like, we need to keep in mind that I'm not making a 3D platformer here. The platforming needs to be relatively simple in a lot of ways. Probably good if we can jump onto this from both sides, actually. So I don't think making the platforming specifically all that much more complex is a good idea from a game design perspective, as well as a using my time well perspective, because those are kind of like mechanics that likely aren't very reusable. So having to program something like that would be not great for my time. Can turn the collision off from the character component and put a collision on the mesh. Yeah, but the thing is that your character movement component that you use for navigation will only use your character capsule. So if for instance, if we have a character that we do in that way, that is standing right here, bad size, yeah, I don't care. And we have a, can I just add like a mesh real quick to this to show what I mean? Add a sphere. Like at that point, we can just move this sphere up, that's fine. But the character movement component that's actually doing navigation will think it is no problem to walk over here because it's using this capsule to decide where it can and cannot walk. It's not using this thing here because there's no nav mesh in the sky. So that doesn't actually like solve anything. Only way that solves anything is if you like have a character that is flying in an area that is just flat. Like if there's nothing that it can clip through in the sky or have like collision problems with in the sky, that works fine. The moment there's any verticality, like any other like platforms, art assets, whatever, on the walls in the sky, you start running into that issue. It's not necessarily going to be a platforming room. It's just, I'm thinking setting up some basic platforming to get up to this area here, just so that it has something going on for it. And then something entirely different to get to this door, which might be set in a little bit. We'll see what we actually do with that. The mesh, yeah, okay, but the character movement component is going to take priority over that. Because the character movement component will still like walk over here. And that just works with effectively a set position, and set position like that, it will override any collision settings that you have. And if it didn't, it would create like a local delta offset, which would be even more messed up because then everything is offset suddenly. So like the entire ID kind of falls apart due to these platforms. If it weren't for these platforms, that would work fine. But since we're also having these platforms here, we find ourselves in a bit of a difficult position. Let's delete this camera as well, actually, because we're not going to be using that, at least not for the moment. Let's space these out a little bit more evenly as well, maybe. I'm just kind of putting them down willy-nilly. There's also a capsule component height node, so the character component moves up but still read the nav mesh if I'm right. Yeah, okay, but that still doesn't solve the issue of like navigating in the sky. Because it's still going to be using the surface of the floor here to navigate and not be aware of anything above it. And anything that it is aware of above it, it's like either not going to be aware of it or it's going to think that there's like walkable area there and not going to think it's an issue. So that still runs into the issue that it works well in a flat room, but not anywhere else. What if we offset these by 500? That actually seems to work quite well. Is Unreal swimming navigation a way to make... Oh, that is actually not a bad idea. Does Unreal have built-in swimming navigation for AI? I don't know if it does. It doesn't have for flying. It has a flying movement mode, which is also kind of iffy with using input controls. But like that's the thing. Like, for flying, it has a movement mode, but it doesn't support. Let's look this up. It doesn't support any sort of navigation. I assume that it doesn't do for swimming either, right? AI path planning for swimming, flying enemies. Let's see. I looked into this like months ago. Yeah, depending on how your game works, you might be able to use a 2D nav mesh, but for me, that's like in 90% of cases not an option because I've got verticality to my levels with like overlapping stuff. Yeah, so the engine by default seemingly these are answers from 2 years ago on Reddit, but the engine by default doesn't support any kind of 3D navigation. But there is marketplace assets that do it for you. I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and like buy one of these at some point. And I think there's some affordable ones as well. But I don't really want to invest too much time into flying enemies until I've got this. But that's also part of the reason that I haven't made any flying enemies lately, because I know that whatever I do with it, I'm going to have to rework the behavior tree at some point, and I don't want to do that. So I want to just kind of hold off until I buy that. Which I might do for the next time I make a flying enemy. Which could be for this guy, honestly, that we're thinking about right now. I think that's a little too much. What if the enemy has a lob type attack where they can attack you from the bottom level, sort of like a bomb? Yeah, see, that would be a lot easier to program. Let's do 300. Because that is just a projectile. And then maybe we add in some moving platforms here as well at some point. Like this one can be maybe moving up and down. And we have one that moves side to side here. Yeah, I think that's kind of good. So yeah, like a bomb throw, that might be like not a bad idea. I kind of have an enemy model that I could use for that already, I think. I kind of like that idea. Actually, I have an idea because we have to repurpose the skull, but we can probably repurpose the skull for that. If we just kind of have like a skull that follows you in at least like its Z rotation and then maybe a little bit in its, what is that, like its yaw? It's front and back rotation. I always get yaw, pitch, and roll mixed up. I think the yaw is actually the Z rotation. XYZ makes a lot more sense to me. Anyway, in its Z rotation, and then it's like its forward vector, it can rotate, or like towards its front, towards its back, and then just like shoot energy blast bombs at you. That's probably pretty easy to make, and it fits in with the theming. So I kind of like that. So yeah, we'll probably go with that. Then we just have to figure out how we're going to program it, figuring out like the arc, because that requires a lot of geometry and I'm not good at that. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that. That let me not have to use the thingy for a little longer. Okay, so this is 400 by 500. Guess we just make a box for that. So that would be 400 by, oh, no, 400. Advanced drone AI seems like good flying AI on YouTube as tutorial. I can look that up. Is that the dude that does like fucking 50 line traces in every direction, every frame? Because like it's not that big a deal, but it doesn't scale up very well, I don't think. It was the same tutorial that I have looked at in the past. I'm just gonna get the. That's the wrong thing. I'm just gonna get the plugin for the 3D navigation at some point because I need to have that available to me anyway. It's like much too powerful to not have. Mr. Wiz, I'm bad at remembering names, and again, it's been a while since I looked into any of this, so I'm not entirely sure if that's the. Let me just. I think it might be the same tutorial that I'm thinking of, which I mean that works, but that's still fairly limited. Yeah, Advanced Drone AI Unreal. Mr. Wiz. This might actually be a different one. Let me see. Yeah, I think there's actually a different one from the one that I watched. Huh. Maybe we'll take a look, but I also, again, I think it's just better to have the possibility of having like proper three-dimensional pathfinding anyway. Because I don't want to be like creatively held back by the fact that I don't have proper 3D pathfinding. Is really what it comes down to. Okay, let's 500,000, 1,500, 2,000. There's that direction for this one. And then we need to set the parameters for this thing off. So we have a duration of, let's say, 2 seconds for this one. Distance to travel is about 2,000 units. Let's wait a second at both sides. Wait a second at both sides for this as well. The duration for this will be, let's do 3 seconds. Well, actually, no, that doesn't make sense. Second and a half. And the distance to travel will be, I don't know, how much will it be? That's a fantastic question. It's about 1,500. You might be able to program the arc by calculating the launch velocity by using the suggest project velocity function and cleaning by simulation gravity with the projectile movement component. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Something like that surely is an option. I know that there is like there are functions to like just create a curve, and I can just check if that curve overlaps with anything. Probably anything that's not the player, that is. Just like level geometry. And if it overlaps with level geometry, I can just like change the angle and or velocity. But I need to like work out the logic for that. Because just finding the like direct path is not an issue, but where it becomes an issue is and this is an issue for like just human players as well. But let's say we have this and just like make it a little bit bigger. Is the launcher, and our player is standing on this platform like over here. At that point, it would need to calculate an angle and a velocity to make like a lob that goes like this and also avoids this platform. That's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about. But I'm sure we'll figure it out sooner or later. Maybe, hopefully. Why is this? That's a little annoying. Is this one misplaced as well? This one's misplaced as well. Okay, so we can just move both of these 50 units to that direction and figure it out. There we go. At this point, I might as well just put this like this, right? Yeah, so right here, what I'm thinking maybe what we can do is... My fucking gizmos are gone again. God damn it. Why does it keep happening? Well, I guess we just put this up to like 3,000 maybe. And then... You might need to create custom collision platform for the... so that it doesn't see the... No, but that's the thing though. It does need to see them. It just needs to adjust its angle and velocity based on being able to see that there's a platform in the way. Because if there's a platform in the way, it needs to change its output. So if I make a custom collision channel that... I'm assuming you mean that it needs to ignore them. That actually makes the problem worse. Thinking in reverse, yeah, that happens a lot. happens to me a lot. Make this like 700. A little bit of an awkward. So what I'm thinking, by the way, I'm not really going through my thought process here, but what I'm thinking is because we have that hazard, what we can just do is we can take this, take the transform out of this one and just like put it on this. And suddenly, there we go. Probably, no. What about ray tracing? Yeah, so if you just do a line trace, you still have the issue that like you can check if there's anything in the way, but like that's not the issue that I'm facing. Is how do I decide the angle and velocity that I need, the combination of those, to properly lob something? I'm sure that Unreal has something built in for that though, because that's something. I'm not saying that Unreal is specifically only a shooter. Fucking 199. Have it your way. Unreal isn't only a shooter engine, but it does shooters pretty good, I would argue. And that's something that you would have as a functionality in a shooter game, surely. Actually, I think it might not be too bad of an idea to set this to 200. So I'm sure that there's something built in that I just don't know about that can calculate that for you. Like, hey, this is where I want to shoot. Like, figure out the proper arc to get there. Matter of fact, I'm just going to Google it right now. Unreal, calculate AI, lob, shot angle. Let's see. Yeah, inverse trajectory calculation. That's it. How do I let my AI shoot a bow? Suggest a projectile velocity and predict projectile path might be useful too. Yeah, so they're referring to those functions as well. I'll have to look into those. Use a projectile movement component and set the components on the target to be homing. Yeah, but I don't like relying on it being homing. I want it to be just carried by gravity. How to make the lead their shots against a moving target, that I do know, but I don't really care for it. How to make AI less accurate, just fucking random offset. Yeah, curved projectiles, grenades, arrows. So yeah, the only thing that I'm worried about with using suggested projectile velocity is that only outputs a velocity, right? Not an angle. And does it take into account that it needs to like not hit geometry as well? I'm not overly familiar with that function and how it works. But we'll figure it out. Let's set this to 2. Let's set this to 2. Start delay 0. Start delay 2. Active time 3. I don't know. I'll try to look into that this week, maybe, and see if there's anything that I can come up with a little bit of Google and maybe ChatGPT help. Actually, I think we're pretty much at the proper height. So what we might do is we might take all of this And just kind of like rotate this 90 degrees. And move it like okay, yeah, that is a thing. Not to worry. This can be fixed. Just will take a little bit of work. Can we please set this as the active element? Thank you very much. Little elbow grace never hurt anybody. Unless you're easily flammable, in which case I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. Don't make this one actually. Yeah, no, so there we go. Go move this door over there. And then if we put that like lobbing enemy, I'm just going to put a sphere there for the time being. If we just put that like right in the middle here, it'll start lobbing things at you after like a second or 2 seconds of lead-in time. Maybe 5 seconds, we'll see. Because it takes at least 2 seconds for a level to properly load in. Allergic elbows. If you're allergic to grease, your elbow grease is going to be not a good time. But then the question becomes, that works great for this platforming exercise, but then what the ever-living hell do we do with the other door? I guess what we do with the other door might be... What if we put the other door? It's going to change the layout of the dungeon a little bit, but that's fine. What if we put the other door over here? Behind a wall that you need to break. By making this thing shoot a bomb at it. I think that's a pretty neat idea. Like if we just put this... Because the one we make for that can just be very badly coded to just check for, hey, if you're overlapping with anything, are you overlapping with this very one specific breakable thing? Because I can't see us making this into like a very reusable asset that's going to be used all over the place. So we can pretty hard code it to just check for a very specific class, and if so, it just tells that specific class to go explode. Take a break. I will at some point, because it's almost 2.5 hours, so we are going to like end of the stream at some point. I'm not going to be like programming any of that anime today, so once we have all this in place, I'm probably going to end the stream pretty soon. Especially since I can slowly start feeling the energy drink that I downed before the stream working off. So my ability to focus was very slow, or very low rather, when the stream started, and it's like more or less entirely gone now. So maybe make the ceiling for this a little bit taller. It's a little claustrophobic otherwise. But that then does make like all of this needs to be, well, it doesn't need to be moved, obviously. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to add like another hallway here so that you have to walk around the corner. Because I have this obsession, and it's not rational, but I have this obsession with the fact that the layout of the dungeon needs to make some sort of approximation of physical sense. Because what I don't want to have happen, especially since I do want to make a mini-map at some point, at least in the pause menu, what I don't want to have happen is that you go through a door at this side of a room and enter through this side. Because I do honestly think that there is like some intuitive navigation that gets lost when you start fucking with things too much like that. So if I just make you walk at least around the corner, it still makes physical sense, even if it doesn't 100% actually line up. It'll feel a little bit more like it does. And we'll see when the game finally, at some point, gets finished. Because that sure will happen. I did pay Steam today to make my Steamworks account. So at this point, I am locked the fuck. I haven't quite made the Steam page yet, so I can still use that payment for another game if I wanted to. But assuming that I don't, and I probably won't, I'm going to be using it for the Steam page on this game. I am like 1,000% locked in finishing this game, because now I have paid money for it. And I'm Dutch, so I don't waste money. To be fair, I also had a couple of artists make some models, but that was largely sponsored by Fiverr. Oh, you're going to be hearing me pester you guys about wishlisting this thing whenever the Steam page is live, which hopefully will be within the next week or so. I just need to wait on Steam to like verify my ID and that kind of stuff. Which apparently they do after you pay them, because fuck me, I guess. I still think that's a little backward. But it's also not the end of the world. But it's a little bit backward. Feels like they should verify you before taking your money. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? The $100 is just a deposit or a retainer or whatever you want to call it, to prevent Steam from getting filled up with meme games. Not that that actually worked, but hey, whatever. So it's not even like a business model thing for them. It's not even actually generating any revenue. It only generates revenue on games that don't make at least $1,000. Because the moment you make $1,000 on your game, you get that money back. And I guess there is something to be said about doing that before the ID check, because the ID check does also take time and effort on Steam's part. But I don't know, and I know that I'm going a little bit off topic here, but I don't know that there would be that many people who will want to go through the ID check for a Steamworks account. If they didn't pay $100 first. Because that portion of it in its entirety is like not a lot of fun. And I'm still okay with it taking that $100, and we talked about it in Discord. I'm still okay with it taking $100 to make an actual like Steam page to prevent like spammy or even scammy kind of games being published. But that can totally be after they have verified your ID, because verifying your ID is just a matter of like tax reasons and like fraud prevention and that kind of stuff. Like that's not even anti-spam. Well, it might partly be, but it largely seems to be to do with like payment details. And it kind of just seems scummy to take my money to even unlock the possibility of confirming my identity and my payment details. But hey. I guess, yeah, to make sure that you're serious. Yeah, but again, I don't think anybody is filling out tax forms just for the shits and giggles, right? Like, there's no reason to have that payment of $100 happen before filling out your tax forms instead of after. Aside from having maybe a slight extra filter in there, but again, like, it's not like Steam doesn't make enough money anyway, so like the handful of man hours that they lose confirming like tax details on people who don't actually end up like publishing anything is probably negligible anyway. And I don't know, Steam has this reputation of being like the good guy in the gaming industry, and for like a lot of it they are. But this doesn't feel quite nice. Then again, the moment all this is confirmed and I want to publish a second game on Steam, it's just paying the $100 and have my Steam page up. It's just like the account confirmation. I don't need to go through this every time I want to make a page. But if it's part of the process of making a page, why not just make it part of the process of making a page instead of part of the process of opening up your account, right? I just don't really see a reason that it needs to work the way that it does. But yeah, we have this entire thing like more or less set up. I guess what we'll do on Thursday is finish up like this little hallway here. That's going to be very, very quick and easy. I don't think we really need to do too much about this other than like connect up some like level design or like level blueprint nodes up to a couple of like event checks, and then put in removing this door when that is applicable. And then we can start doing some lighting. And I'll probably look into the whole like lobbing enemy AI thing in my own time, because that's going to require a lot of trial and error, and probably just me talking to ChatGPT and looking at YouTube videos, which is probably not the most interesting content. Time to write a strongly worded email. The adult thing to do. No, the adult thing to do is to live stream yourself to a handful of people, bitching about it, and don't do anything about it, accepting that this is the world we live in and that you have no power to change anything, and just go with the system. Fucking capitalism. Right? Am I right? That is the adult thing to do. That's considerably more bleak. But it is kind of that is how it is. Oh, we definitely do want to like line this up though. Oh, we definitely also want to line this up. Hold on, we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. We need to line this up. Now we're finished. That was very important, okay? It probably should be rotated around anyway. Do these line up? They don't seem like they line up, but I think they do. Boom. 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 Funny thing is, this door doesn't even lead anywhere yet. Like, the level that it leads to doesn't exist. So we did some things today, not a lot, but I didn't expect to get a lot done, so I'm kind of impressed with the amount that we did get done. I am going to lose my mind though, because this is not centered. Right? Hold on. Ah, it's off by 100 units. Fuck me. Okay, let's fix that real quick. Oh, that's missing a 1. Oh, that's not even... Hey, now, without capitalism, there'd be no future bitching about things to a handful of people online. I mean, yeah. I mean, technically, I'm making money out of bitching online to you guys, so I probably shouldn't be complaining too much. Not that these streams really particularly make a lot of money, but technically they do generate some amount of money. Okay, so now there's a center. I can sleep soundly at night, knowing that everything is symmetrical. It doesn't look symmetrical, though. But it is. Right? Ooh, I think it's still not, actually. I think this needs to be 1650. Maybe? Hold on. Is this symmetrical now? And this 1850? Oh, this needs to move over too. This is centered now, right? I think this is centered. I could count the squares. I could. Yeah, the ball isn't. Yeah, I didn't think that it would be. The ball will... Like, if we just take this guy's position and just put the ball on, like, that. Oh, just on that position. And then change this to... Oh. That's not ideal. There we go. Now that should be centered as well. And fucking... No, actually, I don't think it is. Well, yes, it is. It is centered in the left or right direction, I think. Let's just get rid of the perspective altogether. Let's just look at this from the top. Like, just orthographically. Yep, that's not centered. That's fucking not centered. But off by like 20 units or something like that. It's kind of odd. Does this look uncentered to you guys? This hallway? There is a way to just draw... What key is it again? Oh, it's the middle mouse button. That looks like a pretty straight line, doesn't it? A straight line would go through there, actually, wouldn't it? I don't know, man. This doesn't seem very straight line. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, because that doesn't then go through, like... Oh, this just isn't a perfect square, so that actually is not how that works at all. We just go from there through there. Yeah, and then it doesn't line up with the... Oh, but hold on. This... also isn't an even square, so this is not actually in the middle, probably. And these two don't line up either. What the fuck is going on with any of this? I am decreeing that this is the center position, and everybody else that disagrees can go fuck off. it's good enough. And as far as like the center position of this goes, like if you're standing up here, you're going to be seeing it like this. This feels pretty much centered enough as well. It's fine. We're going to call it a day because my brain's just fucking gone. So I'll be back on Thursday with doing some stuff. We'll see what that actually ends up being. I do want to, just for fun, look at what this looks like sideways because I haven't actually done that yet. Is there a good way for me to do that? I guess there would be by just going into the levels and going into purple. This is like 110, I believe, right? Wall breaking platformer. Hey, but it's still a wall breaking thing, so we at least stay true to the name. Let's just simulate. Okay, all that I needed to know is whether or not they work properly sideways as well. They don't emit light, but they do show reflections, which is kind of neat. But yeah, so they do what they need to do. Maybe I'll make specific stuff for them. I'm thinking maybe I'll make specific new particle systems for these. Or maybe I'll just change the particle system that I have to take in some parameters for like the height and stuff. Oh yeah, we also have a bunch of that stuff. I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, see you guys. It's been a good one. Bye. Is purple fire hotter than blue? I don't know. The whole dungeon is purple, so that's why it's purple. I think purple fire is just indicative of some kind. Okay, I said I was going to end the stream. Now I need to. I think it's some kind of chemical. Purple, because it's not. There's no natural purple fire. Purple fire is caused by chemicals. Yeah, but what chemical? Chemical. Potassium. If you burn potassium, you get purple fire. So that's what's happening here.